Sometimes in a negotiation, one word could turn the tide. It's so important to be prepared, to know your opponent, to know what's going on. You know, whenever you sit down in a meeting, a negotiation, a sit down, you can call it. Anytime you go into a meeting, you know, you want to come out on top, or you want to at least get what you came in there for. And how do you do that? You're prepared. Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. All is okay on this end. Praise God for that. And what are we going to do today? You know, I get asked all the time, where did I really hone whatever skills that I have throughout my life? And I have to say that, you know, much of it came through my experience in the mob life. No question about it. I mean, you have to be at the top of your game if you're going to succeed in that life. You got to be able to deal with people. You got to be able to know strengths and weaknesses. You got to be a people person in many, many ways in order to succeed in that life. And, you know, I always try to pass my skills on to those of you that are asking all the time. I get so many comments, so many requests, so many emails. So I decided to do something that I think is going to be very helpful and very entertaining for you also. I finally got through all of Sopranos, all 6 seasons right till the end. So I've seen it all. I know when I reviewed it in the past, I reviewed certain things about it. People said, Michael, you never even watched the whole series. Well, I've watched it now, and I totally understand why this was such a groundbreaking series, why so many series followed, you know, to try to copy the success of The Sopranos in their own way, you know, with their own stories. And I always said, you know, I think the amazing part of all of these series that do so well are the interaction of the family. Because people relate to family, no matter what walk of life you're in, no matter what you do, people relate to family situations. And everybody in every walk of life, you know, that has a family, we kind of go through the same things in different ways. And so, you know, Sopranos was a tremendous series. But what I'm going to do today, I'm going to talk about something in my former life that was so helpful to me that I was able to hone some of my skills on in dealing with people, in negotiating with people, and coming to terms. And I'm going to do that by looking at a scene from Sopranos, talking about it, giving you the real scoop on it, the real information, telling you whether it's realistic or not, and then seeing if you can apply it to your own life. Because this is something that I did many, many times. I can't tell you how many sit-downs I was in throughout the course of my 20 years on the street in that life. And because I had some success, I was always sitting down with other people, other groups from within my own family or other families. And, you know, it taught me a lot. It taught me how to relate to people, taught me how to negotiate, taught me to how, you know, to speak when I'm supposed to speak, not talk when I'm not supposed to talk, taught me to be a good listener. A lot of those skills came out of these sit-downs dealing with people. So there's a great scene from The Sopranos that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to give you the ins and outs, you know, what's correct about it, what's not correct about it. I'm going to tell you what you can glean from it and what you should learn from it and what I learned from it. So we're going to roll this first one really quick, and I'll tell you what it's about. It's Johnny Sax. You know who he was. He was a cop of the regime first before he became boss of a family. And let's put it this way. His wife that he loved, he was madly in love with his wife, but she was a little bit overweight. And comments were made about her and about her being overweight through some of the episodes. It was unkind, obviously, and things you're not supposed to do. But in this particular case, another made guy made a comment, an unflattering comment about his wife.
I hear Jenny Sachs getting a 95-pound mold taken off her ass.
Hey, some guy's wife. Come on.
Now, you got to understand something in that life. Little things sometimes become huge things. You be disrespectful to somebody's wife or to somebody's daughter, that's a no-no. You don't do that. God forbid you violate one of them, you die for that. But, you know, even being disrespectful in such a way can be a huge, huge, huge issue, an issue that can cause somebody to be hurt. And in this particular case, Johnny Sax's wife, somebody made a comment about her. It got back to Johnny Sax, and he's upset, okay? He wants this guy killed over it, about making an unflattering remark to his wife where other people heard. He wants the guy to be killed over it. So we have a sit down. And that's how things were resolved all the time. In this case, Johnny had to bring his boss. Okay, Carmine was the boss of the family at the time. And it was Tony Soprano's guy that made the remark. So Tony Soprano was there. But, in a little bit of a kicker on this, Corrado Jr. was still the boss of the family, but he couldn't be there because he was on trial. He couldn't be around anybody. So what they did, they tuned him in over the telephone. They had Corrado in one place and everybody else was in another place, and they had him on a speakerphone somewhere else. Now, let me stop. That would never happen. I don't care how, Tony says, the Taliban used to use this phone. It's totally clean. We're going to throw it away afterwards. The police will never know. Nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to be able to tap into this phone. Nonsense. Nobody trusted the phone that much, with any brains, I would say, to have a sit-down of a serious nature over the phone like this. Now, did guys make a mistake on the telephone? Yeah, but they were silly. They were dumb. They should have never done it. One thing I do remember, we thought at the times when cell phones came out that the government couldn't tap a cell phone. We were wrong. Government can easily tap a cell phone. As a matter of fact, you can get more information off of a cell phone than you can just about from anywhere else. As we go through, we see Carmine, who's the boss. He's kind of, talking to Corrado. Corrado's on the other end. Doesn't look like he's taking this very seriously. He's eating his olives, having a good time, but he's listening. So now Johnny Sachs has to lay out his case. And what he says is that somebody allegedly made a remark about his wife. And that's a mistake right there. What do you mean allegedly? He either did it or he didn't do it. If it's allegedly and you're not sure if he did it, well, there's no case anymore. There's no beef. In a real sit-down, he'd have been thrown out. No, you either tell us what happened, make your case, tell us who the person was who made this remark, not allegedly, and let's get on with it. And if there's an allegedly and he doesn't want to give up the name of the person, there's no more sit-down. So when the word allegedly is used, Tony, rightfully so, says, wait a second. You got me here at a sit-down. You're saying one of my guys made a mistake like this or said something like this, and you don't want to tell us who it is? You don't want to give us his name? No, you don't do that. You either tell us who it is or this is over with, basically. And Junior rightfully says to Johnny Sachs, were you there? And he wasn't there. So Junior says to him, well, if you weren't there, how do you know it's true? Johnny Sachs comes back and says, well, I'm not at liberty to tell you how I know it's true. And that's when Tony stops him and says, wait a second, what are we playing, a game here? Did this happen? If it happened, who said it? Let's get on with it. Because if somebody in my crew said something like that, I'll bring him here right now. And if it's corroborated that he said it, I'll hand you him on a silver platter. Tony outsmarted him 100% here. To a point where now Carmine, the boss, Johnny Sachs' boss, agrees with him because Tony is right. Corrado Jr. is right. Bring the guy here. If he really said it, let's find out, and then we'll deal with it the way we're supposed to as friends of ours. So now Johnny Sachs has to reveal who it is. His name is Ralph. He's one of Tony's guys. Tony says, fine. If Ralph said that, I'll bring him in here. If he corroborates what you're saying, I'll give you his head on a silver platter. And Tony was right. Corrado and Tony right now, they're getting the edge on this. But Carmine says it's immaterial. He made a bad remark. Let's deal with it. Johnny Sachs comes back and says, listen, this is about my wife. What's going on here? If this was years ago, would we really even have to ask to have her avenged? And I don't get that at all. I don't care if it was years ago or if it was today. You have to bring the facts to the table. You can't just make allegations that aren't true. You got to bring the facts to the table. You're calling to avenge somebody, meaning you want to kill the guy? You don't want to tell everybody what's going on? No, that doesn't work. All right, so Tony says to him, okay, let's say for the sake of argument, you're right. Ralph did make this mistake. What good is it going to do to kill him? And Carmine, Johnny Sachs' boss, says, nobody's getting killed here. Right off the bat. He's not killing somebody for this. And then he's asked, he said, would you accept an apology? And he says, that ship sailed already. No apologies. So he's being really wanting to avenge his wife. To me, I'll be honest with you, I think this whole thing is ridiculous. I really do. Even if he did make a remark about his wife, something like that, you don't cause a sit down over a situation like that. So now what happens? Corrado, Tony, they win over Carmine, the boss. He says, hey, again, nobody's getting killed here, because what comes out at the table, obviously, money always means something in this life, and Ralph obviously handled a lot of money for the family. So Carmine turns around to Johnny Sachs and says, hey, okay, nobody's getting killed. Name your price and let's get this over with right now. So when Carmine says that to Johnny, something that I'm telling you will never happen. Johnny's a cop of the regime. Carmine's a boss. Johnny looks at him, dies out his cigarette, gets up and walks walks off the table. Total disrespect, something that I never seen happen in I don't know how many sit-downs I was in. You don't walk away from the boss. You sit there, the boss makes a decision, and you abide by it. That's it. You leave that table, everybody shakes hands, and that's the way the deal goes. You don't walk off the table. Just for that alone, he could have been in a lot of trouble. So now Corrado, he doesn't know that Johnny Sachs got up and left. He says, hey, how about you take a piece of Ralph's company? I mean, could you imagine this? Because he made a remark, who knows what he said? You know, he made a silly remark about his wife being overweight and money's going to be involved, payouts are going to be involved, somebody can get killed. But you want to know something? Things like that happen in that life. And that's why when you're sitting at that table, you better know how you handle yourself. And I honed a lot of my skills, even over nonsensical things like that. I can't tell you how many sit-downs I was at when it was just nonsense. I mean, I think I described once about Jerry Zimmerman. The guy wanted him killed for the same reason, because he made a remark about a made guy. Again, same darn reason, kill the guy over something like that. But guys in that life sometimes are very technical, and you got to be careful. This is why, I found out in life, you always watch out who you're speaking to. You never know. Weigh your words carefully. Don't shoot, off the hip. Don't just be talking about people. Don't be passing judgment about people. You never know who you're talking about. It's always better to keep your mouth shut, speak only at the appropriate times and say only the appropriate things. Believe me, in the long run, it helps you out all the way. So it's amazing how you can learn this from just watching a scene in the movie. There are a lot of scenes in a lot of these movies that, I can really relate to, and maybe you can learn something out of them. So hopefully this was all about it. And on a lighter note, I just love the way Junior handled himself. He knew this wasn't a big deal, really, in his mind. He's sitting there eating olives. You see a little bit of a smirk on his face, like, are you really wasting my time with all of this nonsense? But you can see that he's been through the wars. He understands it. He knows what's going on. And, I got to give the victory right here. Tony Soprano was great. He put it right out. Hey, I should be the one making a beef against you. You're saying one of my guys did something wrong, and you don't want to tell me who it is? You say it's an allegation, but you don't want to prove it? No. Tony was smart in this one. He won. And Carmine, the boss, he knew, you're not killing anybody over this. It's a matter of money. Maybe we can make some money over it, which always came out on top. So it was a very interesting scene, and hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you got a little information about it, and maybe you learned something. You can learn a lot of stuff from things that we did on the street. Now, I want to point out something here. I guarantee you, Tony was very prepared for this sit down. And there was really one word that turned the tide on this. One word. When Silvio said,
it's only been alleged something was said.
He allegedly said what he said to a group of people, friends of ours.
If you weren't there, how do you know it's true?
Allegedly. Remember that. Johnny Sachs repeated that. He said allegedly. Because what that says is, we don't know if he really said it. And if he didn't really said it, why are you wasting my time here? What proof do you have? So it was all about being prepared. Sometimes in a negotiation, one word could turn the tide. So if you're prepared in your argument, I could tell Silvio had been through many of these because he knew how important it would be, to say allegedly. You don't even know if this happened. You weren't there. Remember, Junior picked up on that too. He said, hey, if you weren't there, how do you know it really happened? So he really lost his argument on that one word. That turned the tide. It's so important to be prepared, to know your opponent, to know what's going on. Whenever you sit down in a meeting, a negotiation, a sit down, you can call it. Obviously, they're not all as serious as this might have been. But anytime you go into a meeting, you want to come out on top, or you want to at least get what you came in there for. And how do you do that? You're prepared. We have a guide. It's a negotiation guide. We prepare a lot of workshops and a lot of material, and we give it to our inner circle. They're learning so many things through the workshops that we're providing. And so many of the skills that I've picked up on the street, we share with you. So I want you to click on here. You can get your guide on negotiation. You can get other content that we put in there. You can see what we do in our inner circle. Click on the link below. It's not going to cost you anything to look and see what it's all about. But we will continue to prepare information and to give you content that can be of use to you. And we can do it just by showing you a clip from The Sopranos. There's so many things that you can learn and that I can impart my knowledge and wisdom to you and the experience that I've had on the street. So click on the link below, get our free negotiation guide, look at it, maybe, look into the inner circle. I think you're going to enjoy it. We have hundreds of people in there that are really, really, really getting benefit by it. So let's see if you're going to be the next one. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something from it. That's the most important thing. And how do I always leave you? Same way. Be safe. Be healthy. God bless you. Hope you enjoy some Francis wine. And yes, I'll see you next time. Take care.